How's it going, folks? Welcome back. I know it's been a long time since we did the Jaredcast. We've been on a long hiatus. But today, for now, it's just me. It's just Jared A. recording with you. Also, we have not renewed our RSS feed, so the Jaredcast will be just uploading to YouTube. So that'll be the status quo for the next few months at least. We'll also be talking about more movies more often, but not on a regular schedule. I'm not just gonna review new movies. I'm also gonna be going back and reviewing some older things, some maybe some classics, maybe some duds. We'll see. But yeah, today we are back because it is a very special occasion. We finally got another Furiosa movie. Mad Max Fury Road introduced the character Furiosa in 2015. Since then, it's grown to become recognized as one of the greatest action movies ever made, and also one of my favorite movies ever, and probably my favorite movie of the 2010s. And here we have this prequel, Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. This follows Furiosa for about 18 years from when she's a teenager to adulthood, and how she becomes the Furiosa that we meet at the beginning of Mad Max Fury Road. This is George Miller's 13th film as a director, I think, 13th full feature, and also his fifth entry into the Mad Max franchise. I've seen all of them. I'm a fan of all of them. Mad Max 1 is a very simple kind of revenge story, kind of just Western about these bikers versus this cop, and it's kind of Max's origin story. And then the second one is The Road Warrior, which follows Max and a dog as they try to navigate the new wasteland and try to figure out who he is, and how Max can become a hero again, despite losing everything in the first movie. And then the third movie is Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which also co-stars Tina Turner. That was Mel Gibson's last iteration playing Max in the wasteland, and is kind of a more it's a bit more family friendly of a movie. It's also a lot more eccentric, a lot more weird than the first two. But Fury Road is kind of where George Miller really turned up the volume and turned up the dial on everything, on the action, on the set pieces, on the chases, on his experimental photography, and on the colors that he used. If you look at the first three Mad Maxes, they're very kind of dull and kind of dusty, which I like. I like that look. It makes it feel like the Westerns that he's kind of emulating. But Fury Road is a lot more original. It's a lot more vibrant. The colors are still colors, I think, that a lot of people, when they shoot on digital for action movies, they copy a lot of the color schemes and color palettes from Mad Max Fury Road. But yeah, that movie has kind of been stuck in my head. I've seen it now 12 times since it came out, since the weekend it came out. And yeah, I love it. And so I was very curious, very kind of cautiously optimistic about Furiosa. I went into it kind of because I knew a lot of the characters from Fury Road were going to come back. I went into it expecting something like Fury Road, which is very nonstop. It's got its foot on the gas pedal the entire time for nonstop for 2 hours. And it only takes place within 3 days. So this one is a lot different. Furiosa is a much slower movie. It's a much more deliberate movie, but it's also a much bigger movie. We're telling a much bigger story, and we're fleshing out the world of the wasteland. In Fury Road, they mention the Bullet Farm, they mention Gas Town. Here we get to actually explore those areas and see how the world of the wasteland works in Furiosa's time. We also get deeper into Furiosa's character. I know a lot of the press about her character was kind of very reductive in saying, because it came out that she has 30-something lines of dialogue. which is half the amount of dialogue that she got in Fury Road. Now, I don't think that dialogue or space on a page or word counts necessarily quantify a character's agency or not. So, for my opinion, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the fact that Furiosa doesn't talk that much in her own prequel. In fact, they actually give a very good reason in the plot that I won't give away why she doesn't say that much and why she doesn't talk to many people. So yeah, I actually think that's a very good choice for the character. I think building her up and building up her heart and her soul visually, I think is much more valuable and much more, I think, bold artistically, both on the part of George Miller and on the part of Anya Taylor-Joy. It also gives, it also forces the production team and the costume team and the hair team to step up and really, you know, try to tell us subconsciously with certain details in her costume, certain details in her uniform, why she is the way she is, why she chooses, why she makes certain choices, why she carries herself a certain way to survive. And so I definitely appreciate that part of Furiosa's character. I also, yeah, I really love this story overall. I think the wrong question to ask is this better than Fury Road? I don't think it's better because it's a complementary piece. So I think a better question to ask is, what does it add to Fury Road? And to me, it adds all that stuff about Furiosa and this character that I grew to love so much after countless after this character that I grew to love so much after 11 viewings that Charlize Theron brought to life. I love her even more now. I appreciate her even more. When I watched Furiosa on opening night, I went straight back home and I put on Fury Road and I got to continue her journey and see the end of her journey in Fury Road, like right after Furiosa. And it made every single emotional punch that happens in Fury Road hit that much harder because of all the knowledge that I have of her character in the film Furiosa. I think so far, this is the best action movie of the year. I do love Fall Guy. I do love Monkey Man, but the stunts here are just unreal. There's a couple things that happen here that I'll give away in the spoiler section. There's a couple things there's a couple things that happen that I don't even know how they did it. And I watched it a second time just right now. I just got back from the theater from my second viewing, and I still have no idea how they did it. It's absolutely insane. The film also has a few meditative sequences that, to me, distinguish it from Fury Road. The film fades to black and cuts to a slower sequence, and then fades to black and then cuts to another slow sequence, and then goes back into the action several times. To me, this, like I said, it distinguishes itself from Fury Road, but it also lets you feel the weight of the passage of time in Furiosa's life. She knows exactly, in Fury Road, we know this, she knows exactly how many days she's been away from home. And you feel the weight of that. You can feel her kind of counting the days that she can return, counting the days that she can escape. And George Miller does a great job showing you why it's not easy to escape the way that she wants to, and why the world kind of falls apart for her. So yeah, that's the end of the non-spoiler section. I recommend this movie. I don't recommend you going into it expecting something super similar to Fury Road, because it is going to be a very different movie. But it is a very epic movie. It's a very big and grandiose, but very personal and intimate story about the character that we know and love, Furiosa. So highly recommend it. Please go check it out. Watch it on theaters. Watch it on the biggest screen that you possibly can. I saw it in IMAX the first time and Dolby Cinema the second time through AMC, I recommend the Dolby Cinema version, just because the sound is a little bit better. But yeah, that's the end of the spoiler section. But yeah, that's the end of the non-spoiler section. I'm going to transition more into details about the world. So yeah, Immortan Joe is back. We got to see his character, and his character die in Fury Road, and Furiosa kind of get her revenge against him. We see kind of what he did to her. He initially recruits her as one of his wives, and she successfully escapes and hides from him, and becomes a respected imperator because she's a warrior and because she can drive and stuff. So it was very interesting seeing this version of Immortan Joe, who is not so, who is a little more level-headed. He's a little more calculating. He's a lot smarter. Furiosa, the reason Immortan Joe kind of, why his downfall happens is because he's so obsessed with his wives and he's so obsessed with these women who he sees as property that he goes out and uses all of his resources to chase Furiosa down in Fury Road. Here, he doesn't make those mistakes because he has less to lose personally, and because he has a more objective view over what's going on. The Bullet Farmer also returns. He's also he still hasn't changed he hasn't changed his morals or his kind of hot-headedness from Furiosa to Fury Road. The People Eater, kind of the same thing. And Rictus also returns. Rictus is the son of Immortan Joe, so it's kind of cool to see little details about him. He has his own little shop where he creates the dolls and kind of tears them apart and treats them like little playthings. It kind of reveals a little bit more about this guy. To me, he seems like, in Fury Road, he seemed very childlike, despite being the biggest character and despite carrying a machine gun, and despite his loyalty to his dad. He does feel like kind of like this big man baby, and the images that we see of Rictus's room and the way he behaves with his brother Scrotus, and the way that he behaves with the Furiosa as a child. It kind of hints at this kind of like, it kind of reinforces this man baby vibe. And so I like that they added those details for those characters. There's a lot more Wasteland lore, like I said. We get to see Gastown in all of its dirty, oily glory. I wish we got to spend a little bit more time there. And I wish we got like a more extended action sequence there, but I understand why we don't. It is cool that we get to see the Bullet Farm. We do get to see a lot of that. There's an extended action sequence with Praetorian Jack, played by Tom Burke, who is wonderful in the role, and we get to see him and Furiosa battling Dementus in the Bullet Farm, and that sequence is amazing. We get to see kind of how it works. Everybody mines and digs for metal ore in the earth, and then the bullets are kind of smelted down and recycled, and that's how we know how Immortan Joe and the Bullet Farmer and the People Eater, that's how their armies are able to be so well equipped, is because they have such a gigantic bullet farm and they have such a gigantic gas town. And these three fortresses kind of work in tandem with one another to maintain the status quo and maintain Immortan Joe's power in the Wasteland. And yeah, we also see a lot more vehicles, which is kind of cool. We get to see the return of the People Eater's vehicle. We get to see a new war rig with really, really awesome tools and mounts and attachments to it that are really, really wonderful in battle. The silver war rig is very different from the black war rig that we see in Fury Road. It has these spiky metal balls on the back that spin around like a propeller, and they're attached by chains, and you can use those to knock people out, or knock people down, knock their vehicles out. At one point, they knocked someone out of the sky. Speaking of which, those sky bikes are the coolest thing I've ever seen. So the Octoboss is one of Dementus's side men. The Octoboss is one of Dementus's lieutenants, and he breaks away from Dementus's crew and tries to attack Furiosa's war rig, and they are able to use parachutes and propellers and hang gliders and a gigantic octopus-shaped parachute to fly in the air and actually kind of hover over the war rig and throw bombs down on it and give themselves a height advantage. It was the most insane stunt I had. The first time I saw it, the woman sitting next to me, the guy sitting next to me, and myself all had our hands like this. It was so crazy. It was so insane. I love that sequence. That is the stowaway sequence, which I think is the reason why Furiosa is the best action movie of the year so far for me, is purely that sequence alone. George Miller said, and Anya Taylor-Joy said, it took 78 days just to film that 15 minutes action scene. And it's very, very intense. We get to go underneath the war rig. We get to go in between each war rig's car. We get to go on the sides. We get to go on top of it. We just see every single inch of it gets used in combat, and it's the reason why I love this Mad Max franchise so much, because no matter what I know about it, no matter what I love about it, George Miller finds a way to surprise me and finds a way to subvert my expectation, not subvert, but like fulfill my expectations of, how are you going to surprise me next, George? How are you going to blow my mind next? There's at least one or two stunts in every single movie in the Mad Max franchise that I think is an all-time great stunt. And I appreciate that so much about his filmography and about his commitment to the franchise. I also appreciate the actors' commitment as well. Oh my gosh, these stuntmen are just unstoppable. They look amazing. The War Boys, the Octoboss's gang, Dementus's gang, the Bullet Farmer gang, they are all, we don't see the Bullet Farmer gang, my bad. The Motorcycle Horde is Dementus's gang. Yeah, we see all of them, and they all just really add so much more to this world, and introduce so many more fighting styles, so many more road war styles to this to the wasteland. I really loved also Anya Taylor-Joy and Tom Burke in this sequence. We see them kind of have this great physical chemistry. Not like, I don't mean that in like a sexual or romantic way, but we do see that they're kind of like in sync in their instincts and in the way that they fight, and in the way that they shoot. It's automatically like they click, and that's why they sort of become family, and why Furiosa grows to care for him. I don't know I think their relationship gets romantic later on, but it's hard to tell. She does kind of touch foreheads with him, which is how the many mothers say goodbye and say hello, and how they greet each other. So she at least cares for him as a part of her inner circle, a part of her heart. And that's another thing that I really loved about Anya Taylor-Joy's version of Furiosa. We get to see We get to see different parts of her heart and different parts of what she cares about, what she thinks, how she thinks. We get to see all of that develop, partially through her relationship with Praetorian Jack, but also through her relationship with the villains of the Wasteland. We get to see her kind of earn Immortan Joe's trust. We also see that the reason why I'm also speculating that the reason why Furiosa is not made into a wife later on in life is because she is missing an arm, and Immortan Joe, wants healthy babies. He wants healthy wives. He doesn't want anybody to have any scars anywhere, because he's a pervert like that. So we get to see her relationship with him sort of develop, and we get to see her relationship with a brand new character. And that character is Dementus, who I was saving for this section because to me, this is Chris Hemsworth's best performance yet. I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. I think he's really, really good in other movies as well. But here he just kind of gets to put his whole self out, throw his whole public persona out the window, and just kind of be an actor again and be this physical, gigantic presence that is Dementus. He rides on a chariot driven by three motorcycles welded together. It's so insane. And then he gets stained by one of the red Warboy flares, and starts calling himself Red Dementus. He gets covered in motor oil, or he gets covered in crude oil when he takes over Gastown, or his hair gets stained by crude oil when he's in Gastown, and he steals the jacket of the former leader of Gastown, so he becomes Dark Dementus because his hair is black. I love that he has all these different personas for himself, but I also love the film's way of just juxtaposing Chris Hemsworth's journey as Dementus with Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa's journey. We get to see these two very broken people, people who've lost their family, lost everyone they love, and kind of how they go about finding their way in the wasteland differently. To Dementus, he keeps keepsake of his lost child. It's this teddy bear. He keeps it chained to his belt. He also is very charismatic. He talks to the motorbike horde as though they were his family, as though they were his children, with all this affection and with this kind of saintly grace. But then we see very, very quickly that all of that's kind of a facade. That this darkness, that this charisma is on the surface is actually hiding a layer of real sinister and real insidious and sadistic instinct, pure survival instinct. And yeah, it's interesting that the design of his costume, with the teddy bear chained to his belt, he wants to keep this memento of his innocence, this memento of his child, this memento of the time before the fall of the world and the nuclear war, and he wants to keep it close to his heart. But I think it's interesting that he doesn't tie it to himself, he chains it. And so this is a guy who the symbolism of chains is everywhere in Furiosa. And we see Furiosa several times in chains. We see even the history man, who is pretty much allowed to do whatever he wants and say whatever he wants. He himself is also in chains. He's in a cage. And I think the chains on the teddy bear speak to the hypocrisy of Dementus, right? There's this guy who's really charismatic, really Um, he promises freedom to every town that he visits, but then that freedom is actually just more bondage underneath him. And so I think having a character that's very, very bad, but also very nuanced and very magnetic and very kind of playful, I think is exactly what this world needs. We haven't really seen a villain like this since Humongous, really. As much as I like, as much as I like Immortan Joe in Fury Road, he doesn't really. We only know about the love people feel for Immortan Joe from what Nux says and what the War Boys say about him. We don't really see for ourselves. We don't get to see a whole lot of how Immortan Joe is able to kind of hypnotize these men to believing in him. And with Dementis, we do get to see that. We get to see people like, I think there's this woman with a scarred face. I think her name is Mr. Norton, and we get to see how she becomes a member of Dementis's gang, and kind of see how she's empowered by the sadism and by the charisma that he exudes. So yeah, I think he's a very interesting character. He's a very welcome addition to this franchise, and the way he meets his end at Furiosa's hands is very, very satisfying to me. I love this confrontation at the end because I think with a lot of, I guess, action movies where women are in positions of power, or where they rise to positions of power, and they rise to and they become empowered through the violence they commit. I think a scene like that final confrontation is absolutely necessary because it's very, very different. Normally, they just kind of shoot the bad guy in the face, and it's very cool, very satisfying, or they beat him up, or they say, no, you have to live with your shame. And Furiosa does not do this. Because Dementis, we've spent so much time with him, he's a worthy opponent to Furiosa. He actually challenges her, and he actually makes her, he makes us as the audience see both the good and the bad in Furiosa, see both what makes her great and what her flaws are. We see that because of the way that she confronts Dementis. And this is exactly what I love about this movie. Is it kind of elevates Furiosa to this legendary status, but it also acknowledges, that she's very, very broken inside, and that's where there's that key scene where she sinks to her knees and screams in the air in Fury Road, and it makes me cry every time. And now even more so because I'm thinking about this final confrontation with Dementis. I'm thinking about the first moment that she gets taken away from her home. I'm thinking about the moment where Dementis kills her mother in front of her. I'm thinking about all that stuff when she finally gets to that her lowest point in Fury Road. And it just makes everything so much deeper and so much more meaty and so much more cinematically rich. So again, yes, I recommend it. Absolutely, if you're a fan of Fury Road. Where else? What else? What else? I'm still kind of mulling over what the words that he says to her. But I think ultimately the biggest takeaway for this character is that, yeah, she is broken. Yeah, it is too late for her to find her way home and be complete just by getting home. But I think the symbolism of planting a tree inside of him really is really amazing and impressive and creative, because it tells me that Furiosa will never stop trying, that she'll never break that promise to her mother, that no matter what, she'll find her, no matter how long it takes, she'll find her way home. And that promise carries us through this entire Mad Max saga. It carries us through Fury Road, and really gives I think one of the best, and really informs Joy's performance and Furiosa's journey, and it's one of the reasons why I think Fury Road is one of the best movies of the year. So yeah, that's my review of that's my review of Furiosa and Mad Max Saga. Thank you guys for listening. I'm gonna do shorter episodes because I want to upload a little bit more often. So I'm going to an early access screening of In a Violent Nature later tonight. And I will post a review of that in a couple days. I will also be watching Haikyuu, the garbage dump battle. So we'll get some anime stuff as well. But yeah, thank you for listening. Please keep tuning into the Jaredcast. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Have a great day.